The warning lights bathed the cockpit in crimson as Commander Dominic Vance fought to stabilize the damaged orbital shuttle. What should have been a routine inspection of the new deep space communications array had turned deadly when an unexpected meteor shower tore through their trajectory. Control, this is Horizon 7. We've sustained critical damage. Navigation systems offline. Attempting emergency landing procedures, Dominic called out, knowing the transmission might not even reach Earth given their remote position. The shuttle broke through the mesosphere of the uncharted planetoid, the friction outside creating a hellish glow around the viewports. This wasn't how he'd imagined his first command would end. Impact in 30 seconds, the computer's emotionless voice announced as the barren, rocky landscape rushed up to meet them. When Dominic regained consciousness, the shuttle lay in pieces across a violet-tinged valley. By some miracle, his survival pod had deployed correctly, though he could see no signs of the other crew members. Blood trickled from a gash above his eye as he stumbled through the wreckage, calling out names that received no answer. Night fell quickly on this strange world, bringing with it a bone-deep cold that forced Dominic to huddle inside what remained of the command module. Sleep claimed him despite his attempts to stay alert, his dreams filled with falling stars and screaming metal. A soft, melodic hum woke him at dawn. Outside the shattered viewport, something moved with deliberate grace. Not an animal, the movements were too purposeful. Dominic reached for the emergency blaster, his training overriding curiosity. "Hello," he called out, immediately cursing his foolishness. Whatever was out there wouldn't understand Earth languages. The humming stopped. A figure rose slowly from behind a piece of debris, humanoid but unmistakably alien. Her skin reflected the morning light like mother of pearl, shifting between azure and lilac with each movement. Where hair should be, delicate crystalline structures cascaded around a face with features both familiar and exotic. She approached without fear, eyes like liquid silver studying him intently. Around her throat, a device pulsed with soft light in rhythm with her breathing. "You are injured," she said, her voice carrying an ethereal quality, words slightly disjointed as if processed through something mechanical. Dominic lowered the blaster, shock overriding caution. "You speak English." "I learned quickly, universal translator." She touched the device at her throat. "My ship also crashed 2 lunar cycles ago." She gestured toward distant mountains where something metallic glinted in the sunlight. "I'm Dominic, Commander Dominic Vance," he said, extending a hand then awkwardly withdrawing it, unsure of alien customs. "I am called Nyla," she replied, making a graceful gesture with both hands that he interpreted as a greeting. "Your life vessel will not transmit signals. Mine is beyond repair. We are both stranded." Over the following days, Nyla showed Dominic how to find water hidden beneath certain rocks and which of the strange plants were safe to eat. Her knowledge of survival seemed instinctive, her movements always efficient and purposeful. They communicated with increasing ease as her translator device adapted to his speech patterns. During the violet sunsets, they shared stories of their worlds. Nyla's home planet sounded like something from a dream, crystal cities floating among perpetual auroras, a society built on scientific advancement and artistic expression. One night, as they sat beside a small fire of blue-burning native vegetation, Nyla took his hand, examining the cuts still healing across his palm. "Your kind heals slowly," she observed, then removed a bracelet from her wrist. It was made of an unknown metal that seemed almost liquid in its movement. "This is a life bond from my world," she explained, placing it on his wrist where it adjusted itself perfectly to his size. "It means I entrust my journey to you and you to me. We will find a way home together." Dominic felt the weight of the promise in her silvery gaze. "Together," he agreed, feeling something shift between them, something that transcended the vast differences of their origins. Neither knew that in the distance, rescue shuttles were already scanning the planet's surface, their intentions far less noble than simple recovery. The military compound hummed with activity as Dr. Fiona Blake examined the latest test results on her tablet. 3 weeks had passed since Commander Vance and the mysterious alien woman were brought to this classified facility beneath the Arizona desert. "Her cellular regeneration is unlike anything we've seen," Fiona explained to General Harrington, who stood stiffly beside the observation window. Through the reinforced glass, they watched as Nyla sat cross-legged on her bed, eyes closed in what appeared to be meditation. "And you're certain the translator device functions properly?" the general asked, his weathered face betraying nothing of his thoughts. "Yes, though Commander Vance seems to understand her even when she speaks in her native tongue now," Fiona replied. "They've developed an unusual connection." As if summoned by their conversation, Dominic entered the adjacent room. Nyla's eyes opened immediately, her pearlescent skin brightening visibly at his presence. The bracelet on his wrist, which the scientists had been unable to remove for study, shimmered in response. "How's my favorite extraterrestrial today?" Dominic asked with a smile that had grown increasingly rare when addressing his military superiors. "I dream of stars," Nyla replied, her melodic voice carrying a hint of sadness. "Of home." The observation room's audio captured their conversation as Dominic sat beside her, closer than protocol dictated. "They're still debating what to do with you," he said quietly. "I've tried explaining that you're a scientist, not a threat, but—" "Your leaders fear what they do not understand," Nyla finished, reaching to touch the bracelet on his wrist. "This is the way of many worlds." General Harrington frowned, turning to Fiona. "Their relationship concerns me. He was supposed to gather intelligence, not become emotionally compromised." Later that night, when the facility quieted and skeleton crews monitored the labs, Dominic snuck into Nyla's quarters using the access codes he'd memorized during his debriefings. "I brought something," he whispered, pulling a small device from his pocket, a portable star projector taken from the recreation room. When activated, it cast constellations across the ceiling and walls. Nyla's silver eyes widened with delight. "Your stars," she breathed, standing to turn slowly beneath the projected cosmos. "I thought you might be homesick," Dominic said, watching her with undisguised affection. She approached him, taking his hands in her cooler ones. "These are not my stars, but they are beautiful because they are yours." Her fingers intertwined with his. "Will you show me which one is your sun?" As Dominic pointed out Earth's solar system, Nyla leaned against him, her crystalline hair tinkling softly with the movement. The intimacy of the moment wasn't lost on either of them. "They plan to keep me here indefinitely," she whispered. "I've heard them when they think I cannot understand. They wish to study my biology, my technology." Dominic's jaw tightened. "I won't let that happen. My people will come when they can. They will have detected my ship's distress signal by now." Their faces were inches apart now, her silver eyes reflecting the star patterns swirling around them. Dominic found himself memorizing every detail of her otherworldly beauty. "Nyla, he began, but words failed him. She placed a hand over his heart. "In my culture, we do not need words for some things, we feel them here." Her touch sent a warm current through his chest. When their lips met, it was like touching an electric storm, gentle yet overwhelming, foreign yet familiar. The projected stars spun around them as reality seemed to blur at the edges. Neither noticed the security camera capturing everything, nor the urgent messages being sent to General Harrington's quarters. In the early hours of the morning, alarms blared throughout the facility. Dominic awoke in his own quarters to the sound of boots in the hallway and knew immediately something had changed. The bracelet on his wrist pulsed urgently, nearly painfully. Nyla was calling to him. She was in danger. As he raced down the corridor toward her room, Dominic made a decision that would alter the course of his life forever. Some promises transcended worlds, transcended logic. Some promises were written in starlight. Rain lashed against the facility's exterior as Dominic raced through the labyrinthine corridors, the bracelet on his wrist burning with increasing intensity. Armed guards rushed past, none paying him attention in the chaos. "What's happening?" he demanded, grabbing a junior technician by the arm. "Unknown aircraft," the young man stammered. "Appeared out of nowhere on our radar. General Harrington ordered defensive measures." Dominic's heart stuttered. Nyla's people had come for her just as she'd predicted. He found her containment room surrounded by soldiers, their weapons trained on the sealed door. Through the window, he could see Nyla standing perfectly still, her skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns he'd never witnessed before. "Commander Vance, you're not authorized to be here," barked Colonel Westfield. "This situation is now classified Omega level." "She's communicating with them," Dominic realized aloud. "She's not a threat, she's going home." The facility shuddered as something massive passed overhead. Lights flickered, then stabilized. "Commander Vance," General Harrington's voice came through the comm system. "Report to the command center immediately." Instead, Dominic pushed past two guards and used his access code on Nyla's door. The lock disengaged before security protocols could override it. Inside, Nyla turned to him, her silver eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. "They've come," she whispered, "but your people will not let me leave." "Yes, they will," Dominic replied, removing his security badge and placing it on the biometric scanner by the inner door, shorting out the secondary security measures. "Because we're leaving now." Alarms blared as they raced through maintenance tunnels Dominic had memorized during his weeks of captivity. The bracelet guided them, pulsing more intensely as they moved toward the surface. "The northern hangar has the least security," Dominic explained as they paused at a junction. "From there, we can reach the surface and signal your people." When Nyla touched his face, her fingers left traces of luminescence against his skin. "You will face punishment for this." "Worth it," he replied with a grim smile. The hangar was in chaos when they reached it, personnel evacuating as defense systems activated automatically. Through the massive doors, now partially open, Dominic could see a craft unlike any human vessel hovering above the facility, distorting the air around it like a heat mirage. "That's your ride," he said, trying to sound lighter than he felt. Soldiers spotted them from across the hangar. "Stop, Commander Vance, stand down." Dominic pulled Nyla behind a transport vehicle as gunfire erupted around them. "When I create a diversion, run for the opening," he instructed. "Don't look back." "Come with me," she pleaded, gripping his hands, the bracelet between them pulsing in rhythm with both their heartbeats now. "I can't," he replied, the reality crushing him. "They'd shoot us both before we reached your ship, but I promise you, Nyla, this isn't goodbye forever." Her silver eyes searched his. "How can you be certain?" Dominic touched the bracelet, "Because this connects us across any distance." When their lips met this time, it held the desperate intensity of separation. Nyla pressed something small and crystalline into his palm before pulling away. "Coordinates," she whispered against his lips. "Hidden in the bracelet when you're ready." Dominic overrode the controls of a nearby fuel transport, setting it to move unmanned across the hangar floor. As it created the diversion he needed, he pushed Nyla toward freedom. "Go," he shouted over the chaos. She ran, her luminescent form a beacon in the stormy darkness. A beam of light from the alien craft enveloped her moments before soldiers could intercept. As Nyla ascended into her people's ship, she pressed her hand against the transparent hull, her silver eyes finding Dominic one last time. The craft vanished into the storm-filled sky, leaving only echoes of thunder behind. Surrounded by armed soldiers, Dominic raised his hands in surrender, the bracelet a comforting weight against his wrist. Some promises were worth any sacrifice, even if it took years to fulfill them. 7 years transformed a man, especially one living on society's margins. Dominic's military haircut had grown out, now tied back carelessly from a face weathered by purpose rather than age. The isolated workshop hidden deep in Alaska's wilderness hummed with equipment that would make government scientists envious, if they knew it existed. "Final power coupling test successful," announced the workshop's AI system, its voice modeled after Fiona's, the only ally who'd believed in him after his discharge and subsequent disappearance. Dominic ran calloused fingers over the bracelet that never left his wrist, its metal still lustrous despite the years. "Begin pre-launch sequence, Phoenix." After his court-martial and dishonorable discharge, Dominic had vanished into obscurity, using the knowledge in his head and the crystal Nyla had given him to build something impossible, a ship capable of following her across the stars. The government had confiscated everything related to Nyla and the encounter, but they couldn't erase what Dominic had learned during those precious weeks together. Combined with the crystalline data storage she'd pressed into his palm during their goodbye, it had been enough to begin his work. It took 3 years just to decode the coordinates hidden in the bracelet's molecular structure, another 2 to develop the propulsion system that could reach them. The remaining time had been spent gathering resources without detection, stealing when necessary, trading information in shadowy corners of the scientific underground. "Warning, atmospheric conditions suboptimal for launch window," Phoenix reported dispassionately. Override, Dominic replied, checking the vessel's sleek interior one final time. Unlike the bulky shuttles of Earth's space program, his craft was elegant, designed for a crew of one with systems that responded to thought patterns as much as physical input. The hangar doors above the workshop slid open, revealing a night sky ablaze with aurora borealis, a fitting send-off, reminding him of how Nyla had described her homeworld's perpetual light shows. Incoming transmission, Phoenix announced unexpectedly. Source, Dr. Fiona Blake. Dominic tensed, accept. Fiona's face appeared on the view screen, older but still sharp-eyed. They're coming, Dom. Someone leaked your location. Military transport left Anchorage 20 minutes ago. You didn't have to warn me, he said, grateful nonetheless. I've always believed you, she replied simply. What happened to Nyla wasn't right, none of it was, she hesitated. The chances of survival. I know the odds, Dominic interrupted, sliding into the pilot's chair. Is it really worth risking everything? Fiona asked softly. Dominic looked at the bracelet, thinking of silver eyes and a touch that carried electric storms. She's worth everything. The connection ended, and Dominic initiated launch. The craft rose silently through the aurora-streaked sky, acceleration pressing him back as Earth's atmosphere thinned around him. Military communications crackled across emergency channels. Too late. By the time fighter jets scrambled, Dominic's vessel was already beyond their reach, its revolutionary propulsion system activating in a burst of energy that distorted space around it. The journey would take months by the ship's chronometers, years by Earth's reckoning. Dominic prepared for hibernation as the autopilot locked onto the coordinates embedded in the bracelet. As consciousness faded, he dreamed of crystalline cities and silver eyes waiting at journey's end. Across vast interstellar distances, the bracelet pulsed with renewed purpose, its signal reaching across the void to its counterpart. On a distant world beneath perpetual auroras, an answering pulse replied. The crystalline cities of Nyla's homeworld glittered beneath triple moons, their architectural spires seemingly defying gravity. After a harrowing atmospheric entry that nearly destroyed his craft, Dominic found himself surrounded by towering beings with pearlescent skin and suspicious silver eyes. Nyla's people, the Astrali, communicated through a combination of language and bioluminescent patterns that his crude translator struggled to interpret. Their evident wariness of this human intruder made their intentions clear enough, however. I seek Nyla, Dominic said repeatedly, showing them the bracelet that had guided him across the stars. The artifact caused a ripple of luminescent communication among his captors, but they remained unmoved. They confined him to a chamber with walls that shifted like liquid crystal, reflecting distorted images of his journey. Hours passed, perhaps days. Time moved differently here, beneath the ever-present aurora that bathed everything in ethereal light. Dominic had almost surrendered to despair when the chamber wall dissolved, revealing a figure he would have recognized across 1,000 lifetimes. Nyla stood taller than he remembered, her crystalline hair now elaborately arranged in patterns that signified something he couldn't interpret. But her silver eyes, those remained unchanged, widening with recognition that mirrored his own thundering heartbeat. You came, she whispered in perfect English, her voice carrying the same melodic quality that had haunted his dreams. I promised I would, Dominic replied simply. When she moved toward him, the distance between them seemed to collapse like the space-time his vessel had traversed. The bracelet on his wrist glowed in response to the matching one she still wore. Their embrace sent cascades of luminescence spiraling across her skin, a visible manifestation of emotions that transcended language barriers. Around them, the watching Astrali exchanged concerned patterns of light. You've violated countless protocols by coming here, Nyla said against his shoulder. Humans aren't yet permitted unrestricted interstellar travel. Then I'll be your first exception, Dominic replied with the ghost of his old smile. Later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal metropolis, Nyla explained how she'd become a respected xenobiologist, using her experience with humans to advocate for eventual diplomatic relations. Your arrival complicates matters, she admitted, her fingers intertwined with his. The Council fears humanity isn't ready for formal contact. They're probably right, Dominic agreed, watching alien birds with translucent wings navigate between the towering structures. But I wasn't ready to live without you. The Astrali Council debated his fate for what felt like weeks, while Nyla showed him wonders that no human had ever witnessed. Floating gardens where plants communicated through scent and sound, libraries where knowledge existed as pure energy rather than words, and temples where the boundaries between thought and reality blurred. Throughout it all, their connection deepened, physical intimacy merging with something the Astrali called soul resonance, a profound joining that left patterns of her luminescence permanently etched beneath Dominic's skin, visible only in certain light. When the council finally rendered their verdict, it came with unexpected mercy. Dominic could remain, but could never return to Earth with knowledge of their civilization. You would give up your world completely? Nyla asked as they stood beneath the triple moonlight, her silver eyes searching his for doubt. Dominic looked up at alien constellations, thinking of the blue planet he'd left behind, the military career destroyed, the friends abandoned, the identity forsaken. Then he looked at the woman before him, whose otherworldly beauty had only grown more captivating with time. "My world is where you are," he answered, the words simple but binding. As dawn broke across the crystal city, painting everything in impossible colors, Dominic and Nyla sealed their union in the Astrali tradition, a joining of light, consciousness, and promise. The bracelets they wore melded together, becoming something new and unbreakable. Some journeys crossed more than distance. Some loves transcended even the boundaries between worlds. And some promises, once made beneath unfamiliar stars, were destined to be kept.